Jared, in trying to understand deeply what human society is all about, you've developed ideas which contradict the normal thoughts or hubris of Western society, that Western society is dominant in the world because we have a better culture, we're smarter, we have a better way of thinking. Some may think it's our religion. Help me understand the argument.
This was one of the biggest surprises and exciting discoveries for me in my intellectual career was coming to understand the basic question of why some people have become more powerful than other peoples in the world. So basic question, Europeans have expanded over the world, but why was it Europeans who expanded rather than Amazonian Indians or Africans or Aboriginal Australians or New Guineans? A frequent answer to that is, well, Europeans expanded because, I hate to say this, it's not politically correct, but let's face it, it's because Europeans are smarter and they have the work ethic and Judeo-Christian tradition and all that other stuff, which is rubbish. The reason that Europeans expanded is the good luck of geography. The growth of human societies over the last 10,000 years, all the interesting stuff, the growth of population, which made it possible to feed inventors, which made it possible to feed kings, which made it possible to feed priests, which made it possible to develop military tools and conquer other people and build ships and cross the Atlantic and wipe out people on the other side of the Atlantic. All of that was made possible by becoming farmers rather than hunter-gatherers. Once you're farmers, you can raise food and support hundreds of people per square mile rather than 1 or 2 people per square mile. And once you've got crops, then you can store surpluses and give those surpluses to inventors and kings. But the vast majority of wild plant and animal species can't be domesticated. Here in California, breadbasket of the world, but California Indians didn't become farmers because oak trees and grizzly bears don't lend themselves to domestication. Whereas the Fertile Crescent, this really today not very promising area of southwestern Asia, that was where there lived the largest number of wild species suitable for domestication. Wild wheat, barley, peas, sheep, goats, pigs, horses, cows. And so the first agriculture developed there 10,000 years ago, population explosion. The farmers moved into Europe. Europeans became numerous. The Fertile Crescent self-destructed. Europeans were left with all the good stuff, the food, and they were the ones who then expanded around the world.
Wow. What does it say that when these expansions occurred and when different groups touch each other, that there's almost always a tendency for war, and as a result of war, the winner not only destroys the other side, but tries to wipe it out totally? What does that say about humanity?
It's been universal in human history until the last 200 years, and mainly the last decades, and not even universally in the last decade. It's been universal that when more powerful people encountered less powerful or less numerous people, the more powerful people always push out or exterminate or conquer or enslave the less numerous people. I don't know of any exception in the course of human history.
That's remarkable. I mean, what are some examples of that? What are diverse examples of that? And what is the deep motivation for that?
The examples would be everything that has happened in human history over the last 200 years. The most familiar examples are Europeans expanding to the New World. Did they make nice with America? No, they pushed them out and they killed them and they infected them and they took over the New World. Similarly, when Europeans came to Australia, they did not have nice conversations with Aborigines, but they gave them infected blankets and they killed them and pushed them out. And when Europeans came to Africa, they tried to conquer Africa. Europeans aren't the only people who conquer other peoples whenever they have the opportunity. It's a universal. Studies of traditional societies, the stories that my New Guinea friends tell me, are that New Guineans fight with other New Guineans, Aboriginal Australians fight with other Aboriginal Australians. There are New Guineans who wipe out other New Guineans, there are Amazonian Indians who wipe out other Amazonian. This is a human universal that began to change only within the last 2 centuries with the Enlightenment, from which there's there's developed a philosophy of universal human rights, that you should not be mean to other people. And of course, the 20th century is the prime century of killing the largest number of people, absolutely. But the fact is that the proportional number of people who met violent deaths in New Guinea tribal society is far higher than in Poland and Russia in the middle of World War II.
What percentages were they, for example, in traditional societies? And these would be local wars.
These are local wars.
How many people in those local wars on each side? I mean, you're talking about hundreds, thousands?
Oh, the whole society, a tribal society, may be 1,000 or 2,000 people. But among those 1,000, 2,000 people, there aren't 10% of them soldiers and 90% everybody else. Every man, old or young, the 6-year-old kids are shooting arrows at each other, and the women are carrying food for the warriors. And when one New Guinea society succeeds in surrounding another New Guinea, they'll massacre everybody, or they may keep the women of childbearing age to reproduce with them, and some of the children they may rear and the other children they may kill. So this is a universal that's changed only in the last century or two.
You've studied so many interesting societies in your career, and you live in an interesting society yourself. Does it disturb you when you see that universal quality of human beings to kill, wipe out, massacre, and enact genocide in other people?
Yes and no. I grew up in World War II, so it's not that war was a discovery for me. What I did learn was the frequency of not just war, but of genocide, of people wiping out other people. Again, growing up in World War II, I came to think of the Holocaust, the Nazi killings, as being unique. The Nazi they're not unique. Yes, they had high-powered technology and they got a very high body count, but low technology in New Guinea achieved complete genocides, which the Nazis did not achieve. And of all the things that I've written about, the most upsetting stuff that I ever wrote was the chapter in my first book, The Third Chimpanzee, about, even as I think about it now, it's hard for me to stop, to hold myself back from breaking down crying when I think of the awful stuff that was really, sadly, routine in human history. And now we're told it's not nice, finally.
Such as? What are the things?
Such as trying to kill everybody on the other side, and doing it often with horrible torture, that you don't take prisoners. Of course you don't take prisoners, you kill them. You kill them in ways that I won't relate to, because some of those ways are such horrible ways. But nowadays, it's only 150 years that we have Geneva Conventions, which say that prisoners have rights, and that civilians have rights, and that you can kill soldiers, but that you should not kill civilians. That's all new, and New Guinea would be, and in the Amazon and throughout world history would be considered utterly ridiculous. Of course we're going to kill all those other people.
Do you despair for humanity?
No, I regard it as up for grabs what's going to happen to humanity. Actually, this is an area where one can be hopeful. Nowadays, there are protests against genocide. It's considered not nice. It's considered that there are universal human rights. So, for example, in New Guinea, when the Australians came back into Highland New Guinea after World War II, it was no longer considered appropriate to drive New Guineans off their land and to wipe them out. The Australians in New Guinea may have been the first colonial power in history that refrained from taking over the land because it was now considered unacceptable. And the Australians instead embarked on a crash program to help Papua New Guinea achieve independence in 1975.
So that gives you room for some optimism.
People ask me, Jared, are you an optimist or a pessimist? My answer is, I'm a cautious optimist. I think the chances are 51% that will get it right and only 49% that will get it wrong.